This is the third video about remote control. If you have not watched the first two about general remote control and materials remote control, then I suggest you go back and watch them now. In this video, we will look at remote controlling Blueprint events, functions, and variables. To do this, we need to create a Blueprint actor. Let's call this SP Remote. And if we open the blueprint, I can do the following. Within the event graph, I can create some logic. Under variables, I can add new variables. For example, the Boolean option, let's call that remote. One very important point here is the eye needs to be visible or open, otherwise we won't be able to use it. And of course, we can go ahead and create other variables like integers, float, string, etc. as long as you make sure everything is visible. The other thing we can do is drag and drop the blueprint into the scene. It needs to be here on the level so that we can get access to it. If we now have a look at the properties, let's just minimize all the other settings. Now we can see the variables we created just now. Let's go back to SP, refresh the list, and add a button to the interface. Then under the actions again, I can find the variables we have created. So if we go to the Boolean option, I can then define it to be turned on or turned off when we press the button. Or we could go with one of the integers and we can set the value of the integer here. We can now see this working. You can see here the Boolean function is set. If we go back to the button and change it to off, when we press the button, it turns it off again in Unreal. The same applies to the integer settings. If we set the number to 123, and press the button, we see the value appears immediately in Unreal. Another example, we could create a slider, and again go into Events, Actions, and set Blueprint Variable. We could then pick one of the parameters here. Of course, a slider will only work with something that can take a variable number. Now we can see this working as well. You can then use all this in your scene for different purposes. We can also create custom events, which we can then call from SP. So let's do that and call this one Print Me. We can then create an action on there. Let's find the print string option. To use printing, we ideally need to be in play mode, but there is a way to use it without being in play mode. Let's delete our earlier interface controls and create a new button, which we can add Run Custom Event to. Then click on the magnifier and we can add the Print Me option. Now every time we click the button, we can see the Print Me function putting hello on there. The event has an option, Call in Editor, which allows the event to be called from within the editor while not in play mode. To use this, the whole blueprint needs to have the Allow tick before Begin Play option enabled. As you can see here, without this option enabled, we can't use the function unless we're in play mode. We can also add parameters to the custom event. For example, we could forward a string. Let's add that and call it text. Then we can forward the text as a parameter. Now back in SP, we look at the settings for the button. With the Print Me function, we can now see we have a parameter here, so we can add a string parameter to this. One really important element here is we have to make sure the name matches the name we choose in Unreal. So if we check back in Unreal, we called it text here. So in SP, we have to right-click on the parameter, select Rename, and type the name exactly as it appears in Unreal. Now I can type my string of text in here, and if we go and try it out, we can see we're forwarding the text through to Unreal. If we go and change the text in SP, then it also gets forwarded through to Unreal. This means that all the parameters here in the custom event can be added and controlled from SP. We can also use functions which behave exactly the same way. We can add parameters and call them exactly the same as we do with everything else. The only difference in setting up is in SP. When we go in, we need to look for the Run function option. That is the end of the videos about remote control. In the next video, we'll look at remote level sequences.